Today we're going to learn how to make Plinko in Excel and actually be able to play Plinko in Excel. Now this uses no macros, this is all entirely within an XLS document. So you don't have to know how to code to do this, you just have to know Excel formulas and where to put them. Now, if you're as excited as I am, you're a fan of The Price is Right, and you're ready to actually see this go. So we're going to give an example where we play, and the way that we do that is we're just going to copy the clock up here. First we got to calculate it, so calculate it, we're going to copy it, drop it right here underneath, and then we're just going to come over to formulas and click calculate sheet. You'll see the Plinko button actually go, and here it goes down, and it's just like you were to go and put a quarter in, and this is completely randomized, so we don't know beforehand where it goes, and for this example you would win 20 points. So let's go ahead and do it again. We're going to move this, let's say, to this corner, we'll enter it in here, we're going to copy and paste our time over here, and we're just going to keep calculating that sheet, and we'll see it actually come on down. And this again uses no macros. If you wanted to build a macro, you absolutely could, and it would just calculate that sheet in the background for you, so you don't have to button mash this calculate sheet button. It's an extremely easy macro, would probably only take 1 or 2 lines of code. But again, I want this in a form that if you want to, you can send it to your friends, you can show it off, and you don't have to wrap it up in a macro book, which can be somewhat dangerous to open. So let's get into how this actually works. Now, before we start, what's crucial to know is that this project relies upon conditional formatting. So everything in here is actually numbers, and these are all formulas that are filling these out. And the number that's showing is going to tell it what to actually color that cell. So if anything's black, here it's a 1. The greens that it comes down are all 2s. And then this one that changes here is actually flickering between different numbers that are hidden down here, telling it what color to go. We create a grid as well, and we'll go ahead and make that obvious by changing that from gray to black. And you can see all this stuff is just kind of hidden in here, and unless you know to look for it, you're not going to see it. So here's our Plinko board, and we tell the cells, depending upon where they're at and at what point in time they're at, what color to go. Now, let's dig into some of the formulas. What's important here is understanding random variables. So with Excel, we have no memory of what actually is occurring in the past. So we generate up a random variable to tell it which way to move, and we actually predestinate where that Plinko block is going to fall, but we still make it random. So it moves forward in time, but as soon as you hit that calculate button, it already knows where it's going to go. So we generate up a random seed here. The way we do that is we take the difference in our time variables, or we just take our time variable, and we look at the hundredths of a second that it's currently at when we paste it. So that's relatively random. It's actually similar to how some computers generate random numbers, or have in the past at least. And it's going to take that seed and jump on down to number 0.18. Now these are random variables that I generated before we started. I used this function up here that ran between 0 and 1 to flip a coin. And this is going to determine whether or not the Plinko block is going to move left or right. If you get a 1, it moves right. If you get a 0, it moves left. So you have 100 different combinations here depending upon where it lands on. It's going to pick that one and the next 10 that follow it, or however large your Plinko board is. Now what's going to happen is, for instance here, if we were on 20, it would have pulled up 20. You would see the different numbers that are corresponding. So it's saying at 20 you're going to move to the right, and then you're going to move to the left at 21, and then the left at 22, and it's just telling it which way it should snake down that board. Now, when we come over here, this Plinko table takes this information, so all these random variables, and it's going to say, okay, we're starting off in column 2, so we were right here, and it has an index function or a match function that's searching for it up here, you can see, and saying, okay, we're in column 2, that's where we begin. And we know that you drop twice, so your row is going to go from 0 to 1, and then 0 to 2. And once you've gone down twice, you're going to change columns. So this is going to say, check over here, pull out the right or left variable, apply it in, and that's going to move it left or right. So here, for instance, we got a 1, so it's going to move it right from column 2 to column 3. And if you remember, when we saw it, it came down 2, and then went over 1. Now it knows it's got to go down 2 again. And this again is just mapping out where it's going to go in the future. This is all predestinated. And it continues moving down this all the way to the bottom table where it ends up at 312. And we can see right here, that's where it won and got that position at 312. As it's moving down, it's dictated by formulas that are going in here to determine where and what you should do at these different points in time. So basically I'm saying if you're near an edge, it's going to knock you away from the edge because you can't actually go outside the board. If you're going down on these columns, you're adding in this random values and you're doing it at what I call an event interval. So you're only going to change up a different column whenever this says a 0 here, and that's just every 3. And then if you have a 1 or a 2, that's when you're just going to drop rows. Now, what's useful of this is, or you're probably wondering why this is actually useful, where we actually use this, because again, we saw things move. We didn't just see a standard table. And where that comes in is the timing. When you copied and pasted this, these are slightly different, and this clock is continuing to move as you go forward. So continuing whatever the second difference is, here it's 5 minutes right now, but it's going to go ahead and move forward that amount of seconds. So, and that's from that active now statement right there. So if we copy it, drop it on top of here, paste the value, we come over here now, let's watch it work in action. We come to formulas, and we're clicking calculate sheet, and you can see it's dropping down this true value here as the seconds get larger. And where that comes from is you're saying, okay, I want it at 18 half seconds. I want you to say true here. At 19 half seconds, say true here. And here's the difference between your current time and the time that you pasted in. So it's just showing you how far in the past. We start off at 18 seconds or 18 half seconds. So we have a 9-second delay to actually start clicking that calculate sheet button. And when it gets all the way to the bottom, that's when your Plinko block disappears because there's nothing else to go on here. Here, this is using some fancy formulas just to come in and say, okay, if this one is true, I know I need to go to this specific position. So let's say this is position 11. We're going to index this table. Over here at position 11, get the row and column information from there. And we're going to tell all these cells over here within their formulas, if you are this row and this column, you're a 2. And if you're a 2, if you remember, we'll go ahead and enter 1 in here, it turns green. So that's again the conditional formatting, and you can see that when you highlight it and you come to home, put conditional formatting. This is something that you have to put in yourself as well. Manage rules, these are all the different rules that tell it what to do in different situations, in different scenarios.